members and speakers, and this is probably the one that I think David, the founder of Aginext and Agile Tour London, and I are most excited about because it's the weirdest in a good way.
It's the first time I've been called weird today anyway.
It's the most exciting because it's dealing with, at Aginext, we deal with really forward thinking. Sometimes out there, it's not your basic, what is a waterfall versus a Scrum versus a Kanban. It is about the next level. Aginext, taking Agile to the next level. So certainly AI should be able to do that, for better or worse, depending on your thoughts. So I would love for Aidan, if you can introduce yourself and your background and tell us a bit about this area for you.
Okay, great. So first of all, hello everybody, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to chat today. I'm really looking forward to the conference. I know it's only a couple of weeks now, and I can't wait to get over to London and participate in it. So my name is Aidan Casey. I'm based in Cork, so I'm right in the very south of Ireland, and I can show you out my window, true to form, it's raining in Ireland, as it always does. So I've been working in software for about 25 years. I started as a developer for many years, and I was an architect. And probably about 10 years ago, I think I realized that people are the hardest part of building software. So you can kind of do anything with technology, but the real challenge is getting people to all work together and to get aligned. And I guess that's where all of the agile mindset and a lot of that stuff really resonates with me. So right now I work for a company called Johnson Controls, and I run an engineering team here of about 45 people, and we're building a machine learning platform using artificial intelligence, and it's in the security space. So it's for smart buildings, and it's the product is called Connected Converged Security, and it's really trying to mash together in real time lots of different security and access control feeds within a building and to add value on top of that.
So your team works completely agilely, I assume, right?
I beg your pardon? Your
team itself works completely agile.
We do, yeah. No, I guess it's an interesting dynamic. So we use Scrum. There's about, as I said, there's about 45 people, and we're organized into 5 different Scrum teams, and we've got everybody's co-located. So we've got user experience, we've got our developers, our testers and product owners all based out of here in Cork. The first customer that's actually going to use the product, I can't say their name, but they're a very large US kind of software corporation. But the way we're actually selling the product to them is through statements of work. So it's quite interesting that the way we work is agile, and we're discovering the right product and the right path as we go. But the way we're actually generating revenue to keep going is through statements of work, and that's really fixed scope and fixed time deliverables. So they'd be very, very high level milestones for functionality that we're going to build, and then the details of what it all looks like. That's where the agile part comes over. But I've never worked on an agile project where you've had fixed deadlines before, so that's been quite an eye opener for me.
That is an eye-opener in a good or a bad way.
Yeah, look, a bit of both, to be honest. I think it keeps you honest in one way, that it stops you getting too far and too deep into something, because it's time boxed. So when we get to a certain point, we've built that piece of functionality, and we're going to keep moving on, and then we'll come back to it later on. So I think that discipline is good, because it really helps you to focus on adding value and building the most important things, one after the next, which is great. But look, nobody likes timelines. Nobody likes deadlines, and that's the bit that isn't.
It's a waterfall, right?
I know, yeah. But I guess the thing here is that there's a commercial aspect to this, that we're discovering what the product is, but we're in a fortunate position where we're getting revenue as we continue to build it out as well. So there's pluses and minuses for everything, isn't there?
And then your talk at Aginext is on AI and Agile. And as AI or artificial intelligence becomes bigger, are you using AI in your own?
So we are. So the product we're building here, there's a data science team of 4 or 5 people at the moment. So we're leveraging quite a lot of machine learning, supervised machine learning, where we're really we're looking at a fire hose of security information. So there's security information from social media, from third-party kind of journalists and news feeds, and then there's kind of streaming video and badge activity within buildings. Really looking for anomalies and little patterns and edges in there that you could actually either dampen down alarms or highlight things to make them more or less important. So the machine learning element all comes around analyzing these feeds and looking for anomalies or patterns in the data which are important to our users.
Okay, so when you say patterns in the data, you don't mean bugs or anything.
No, that's right.
That is AI in testing, or like Sapiens with Facebook.
No, so this is machine learning models which actually run. The product actually runs a bunch of machine learning models and complex events processing pipelines all the time. So some of that activity might be if there was kind of usage patterns of how somebody might travel through a building, their badge access patterns. Or depending on if there was security alerts or weather alerts happening in particular building, particular locations, if there's suspicious activity happening with badges to make that to highlight it, and it would make it more relevant to a security operator. So it's all that kind of stuff.
Oh, very interesting.
It is. It's really interesting. It's a whole new business domain for me. Yeah.
Okay. And then, speaking to agile teams in general, how can AI be leveraged to help them develop software?
Okay, so look, I think that's really the, I guess my talk, there's two parts to it.
Well,
so
we
the
don't
first
give
part,
it all away. We want people.
I won't give it all away, and I'll save the punchline till the end. But I think as agile practitioners, whether you write software or you work in a role where you don't write software, we all need to be aware of the capabilities that artificial intelligence brings, because it really is a brave new world. And I think the landscape is changing, and it's really accelerating. Like over the last 10 years, the advances we've seen in AI means that things that you can build at quite a low cost now, and the barrier to entry to actually do those in a product team has got much, much lower, Like some examples of that might be around recommendations engines. So, when you go to Netflix and you can see all the recommendations for what's the next 4-season, 10-episode box set that you should watch, I find that those recommendations they really understand me now, and they have me, Netflix knows the type of TV that I like to watch. But that same recommendations engine is something that's open sourced, and it's quite easy for you to tap into within your own product as well. So I think knowing what capabilities are there, and the underlying, at a high level, like what the AI algorithms are and capabilities behind them, you've got to be informed so that you know how you can apply them to a product, where they can add value. And then I think also to understand that you've got to treat some of this stuff with a degree of caution as well, because it is so new. And I think AI bias in AI is a really, that's an area I think that's very, very interesting. And it's something that I think we've all got an obligation to understand that, and to really reflect on how we're using AI and make sure that it's ethical and that it's for the greater good. Now, I guess that goes with all types of software and features and functionality you build. But I think particularly with where we're going with AI, which is taking humans out of the loop, and it's giving over more control and responsibility to computers, and computers don't have a conscience, and computers don't have a moral fiber in their body. You know what I mean? So I think we've got to be really careful that what we're leveraging AI for is correct, and that we're not introducing a bias in there when we do it as well.
Which is difficult when it's mainly white men building the software.
Correct.
There's a natural bias and a lack of diversity in those creating the software.
So this is there's a very large data set called the COCO data set, and it's basically a free image library with hundreds of thousands of images that are automatically keyworded. So if you're writing an image recognition, if you're building an image recognition system, you typically take something like the COCO data set to train your data. So it might have, a cat or a dog or a picture of somebody laughing. And basically the way supervised machine learning works is that you feed in all of these images one after the next, and then you give it the expected outputs, which is all of the keywords. And then over time, your machine learning network or your neural network gets trained and it gets more accurate at this. But with the COCO data set, when it first came out, there was bias in there. So there was lots of pictures of people cooking, and they were typically pictures of women cooking. So the AI systems, there was automatically a gender bias influence there where, a woman's place is in the kitchen or a woman should be cooking. And these were things that we worked so hard as an industry to actually get away from and to sort of, I think we're really coming to a place where we've got some sort of gender balance and diversity within software engineering. But to say that the test data sets that you use to build your software can just bring you backwards is really alarming. And it's something that we have to be very careful of,
And also just the sheer fact that stock photos are very whitewashed. They're
correct. Yeah.
Photos that we have from any major stock site are white people doing things on that without the Apple symbol.
Exactly. Yeah.
Put in, and those data sets should factor in things like women of color in tech, which is an entire open source imagery, which
correct.
And things like that. But that is something that's a real problem.
It is. It's a big problem. I know Amazon as well. They got in trouble in the last couple of years where they were looking at building a recruitment tool that looked at. They basically scanned all the CVs of their current employees, and you can understand how this had happened. That they said that we want more of the type of people we have now. So let's run all the CVs through machine learning algorithms, and we can detect for keywords and things which we value and which we think are really important for employees. But the training set that was used for this was predominantly male employees. So again, a gender imbalance or a gender bias was actually introduced into the machine learning algorithms, and they were actually scoring people negatively. Female candidates who went to female schools, or if you didn't do things that male programmers do. So again, through no kind of malicious, there was nothing malicious in it, but it was used, and they've since pulled the tool. So I think you really need to understand what's happening under the covers with these AI algorithms to make sure that that you can stand over them and that they're fair.
And should all teams be using it? Is it something that can benefit the feedback cycle, or how can AI benefit the average Agile software development team?
Okay, so I think absolutely, and it's really I guess it's trying to figure out where's the right place for your product. So natural language processing is one. It's kind of one stream or one field of AI, which is all about looking at a sentence or looking at a bunch of words that are put together and then trying to figure out, to tokenize it and to figure out what the content is and what the intent of that statement is. But I think of all the fields of artificial intelligence, NLP is the one that will give us the most benefits as Agile practitioners and for people building software. So some examples of that would be, we've seen the rise of chatbots and automated bots that can help with customer support, and they're very, very effective at doing your first level of engaging with somebody on your website and finding out what they want to do, and if it's a question that's commonly asked, coming up with the right response. But NLP can do a lot more than that as well. So it could analyze all of your user stories. It could look at what's in your product backlog and really understand what it is that you're trying to build. And there isn't a big leap forward then to go from there to having much better test cases written, or to make sure that the test execution matches the intent of what you wrote in your user stories. I think that's an area where NLP is going to be very, very valuable. There's also a whole field called ChatOps at the moment, which is taking DevOps to the next level. And that's around using, communication platforms like Slack, and using natural language commands like, deploy my service to production. So typing that into a chat channel, and then using NLP to figure out what those commands are, and then the machines take over, and all of your deployment actually happens in an open public forum there on a communication channel like Slack. So I think ChatOps and having bots that would listen to particular commands and responding to them is something that we can use to augment our products right now. You can even go a little bit further and think about Conway's law. So we've all heard that depending on how many departments you have and physical buildings where people work, you get that same. The way your company is structured is the way your code and your product is structured. So for NLP to start to look at your user stories and what's been worked on across different parts of your company, and to identify opportunities for reuse, for sharing or collaboration, I think that's also something which is coming very soon and which will really help us as an industry.
Is it an issue where there will be fewer jobs? Because I was doing an AI interview on a podcast, The New Stack, last week, and something the co-host Livy said to me was, well, yeah, it does look like it's getting rid of a lot of jobs, and not just blue collar jobs. It will get rid of some developer jobs, but developers don't seem to be afraid of it or saying, whoa, let's wait a minute. Let's think about this. This is going to get us out of work. There seems to be this incredible enthusiasm that keeps spiraling onward towards AI. But this does mean that what is the benefit to the work of developers or agile teams if it could end up leaving their jobs?
Yeah, so look, and I think that's one of the real concerns around AI and where is it all going. So there's a really good writer called Martin Ford, and he's written a great book. I think it's called The Architects of AI, and he interviews kind of 50 thought leaders.
That was who was on the call. That's funny.
Oh, was he on the call? Okay. So he's done some really inspiring TED Talks, and he's written a whole book where he interviews 50 thought leaders around AI, and he says at what point, one question is around at what point will we become, will a lot of people's jobs become redundant, as in they'll be replaced by computers, and that could be anywhere from 20 to 50 years from now. That seems to be what a lot of...
Very short. If we still have an Earth, that's a very short time frame.
I know, that's right. Yeah. So I think as a society then there's a really interesting question around is if there isn't jobs, so not everybody in the world is a programmer, but if there isn't jobs in society, if a lot of them are going to be automated and replaced by AI and by robots, what are we all going to do? So one thing that Martin Ford puts forward is the concept of a basic wage, and that everybody would be paid the same wage. But fundamentally, will we be all happy as human beings to get paid the same wage and not work, or what will we do with our free time? So I think that's a whole area. Nobody knows is the answer. But I think as we get more and more capabilities coming from AI, and it does simplify how we build things, I think our challenge is going to be to move up the food chain and to be doing higher order functions. But that's really the way it's been since the industrial age, isn't it? So there was, for history tells us, for as long as there has been change and improvements, we've always been worried that the machines will take over. And
we've always been the ones making the machines. Now the machines will make themselves.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So look, we're not there yet. So I think we're okay for the moment.
I definitely think in the near future, the next 5 to 10 years, it will make the job of software developer more interesting. It becomes more of a creative job, and the term code monkey will completely fade away.
Absolutely agree with that.
Necessary anymore, because the computers will be our monkeys. It will take care of testing. It'll take care of bug fixing. It'll take care of anything where we're doing repetitive work, the known knowns or the known unknowns.
Yeah.
Start to explore what is truly unknown in the software and how to fix and improve on that.
I agree. Yeah.
After that, we're not sure. I'm not sure the world
will be on that. That's right. Yeah, I think one thing's for sure is that AI and these capabilities. So the fact that I could build a recommendations engine that would compete with Netflix and offer that same level of accuracy around what my users actually want from my product, or how they use it, and what features I should build next. That's going to be a massive disruptor for the industry. So
it's important to make it transparent as well. Because the way Netflix does it is, even by showing the percentage of a match, that's giving a little bit of insight into how they're processing it and why they're suggesting it to you.
Correct, yeah.
They're not showing every part of the algorithm, but they're being at least explanatory to everyone a little bit about it, which is part of, and there's definitely overlap with our first Facebook Live with Ann Curry and talking about tech ethics, because there's overlap here.
Yeah. But then I suppose I always come back to the Agile Manifesto, and it's people over, people and interactions over, is it process and technology, or, basically at the end of the day, I think having high performing teams that are empathetic to each other and that can really collaborate and communicate and figure out what they're working on. Like, I don't see that AI is going to make any of that any easier. I think it's actually going to be more of a challenge, because it'll be more important than ever to make sure that we're not introducing bias into what we're building, and to really think through what we're building, and for all of us to understand it. So it'll be very easy to hack something together, but it'll be very easy to build the wrong thing as well.
Is there a need for an Agile Manifesto or something part 2 that addresses this? Some sort of, maybe have people that are not white men signing it. Well, the manifesto is, I believe, all white men.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Look, I think there's definitely a need for more regulation. So it's an area that's growing really, really quickly, and it's very exciting. But as an industry, we're always on the back foot when it comes to regulating new things we build in the IT industry. And I think the time is definitely right now to make sure that we consider like ethics when we're looking at what we can and can't do with AI, and how far we actually go with that.
It seems like the open source community might be the ones that actually create it. I think it's quite clear after seeing the Facebook at the US Congress, at least in my country, and the country I live in, I'm not feeling confident about the British government either right now at all. But I don't think these are people that should be regulating. And I think after getting rid of net neutrality, we've learned the risk of that, and them not knowing the difference between Facebook and Twitter. I think it is interesting that the Linux Foundation, Mozilla, Google Kubernetes, all of them are coming together in the open source community and trying to establish some sort of guidelines or standards to run by, because that
exactly
Google's created their own standards of AI after Project Maven that they do not want to use it for anything that can be weaponized. Although when you're dealing with open source, you have limited control over what someone can do with it potentially.
Well, that's true. But I think the open source community in that model, where you get the people who are actually building it and thinking about it to come up with the guidelines and the rules, is really where we start. It can't start with the bureaucrats and the governments, that's for sure.
So a lot of our audience at Aginext is Agile coaches, of course, or people coached by Agile coaches.
Okay.
Is that something you predict that will ever be able to be automated, or AI replaced a bot?
I don't think so. Do you know, I read a really interesting paper on the Scrum Alliance website, where Accenture have built out a virtual Scrum Master a few years ago. So it was quite a big undertaking and quite a big project. So they saw that 40% of Agile ceremonies, or 40% of the tasks in Agile ceremonies, could be automated by a bot. So I'm not quite sure what that is. Is it?
I was going to say, I don't think daily stand-up or retros, but then when we were talking to Judy Reese, she said once you transfer the Scrum model to a remote team, no one stands up for their calls.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So look, I think there's some tasks where software can keep you honest. So have you closed your sprint and then you started the new one, or do you know what? I think you're taking on more work than you think you can do. But do you really need software to tell you that, or is that just something as a team that you get better at figuring out as you go? So with the virtual Scrum Master that Accenture built, their project, they said it took about I think it was four or five sprints to actually get the bot to sort of really help with anything. But the team felt very, very challenged by it. So they felt challenged that there was a fear of the machine taking over for one part.
Top down, measuring the productivity of different people.
Right. Yeah.
Time blocks again.
Yeah, nobody likes being measured, and nobody, but I think the other thing that a team are really good at is playing to each other's strengths. And if there's a piece of work that comes up, so maybe, I suppose, dividing it out. So maybe you give it to the people who are strongest at it, or sometimes you give it to people for learning opportunities, and they can pair and they can grow and they can really stretch themselves. Or depending on, how somebody's feeling, or if as a team, they've got a lot of work, or they've got a lot of things going outside of the office, maybe you give them less to do or they commit to less work. I think all of those decisions that a team really make, because they know what each other wants to do and get out of work, and how they're all performing at the moment. I for the life of me, I don't know how you could automate that and put it into software without it going horribly wrong.
Program with AI, since AI will eventually surpass the human, so maybe that would be a way to train the human.
Yeah, maybe we learn off the machines. There you go.
Thank you so much for your talk, for your conversation today, Aidan. I think this was really interesting, and I think you definitely piqued everyone's interest. When I said weird, I meant it as the greatest compliment, because AI is weird. It is scary. It is exciting. It is the ability to maybe reach our best potential as humans if we don't mess it up.
If we don't screw it up on the way. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Look, really nice talking to you today, and I'm looking forward to attending the conference.
I'll see you in London in March.
Okay. See you in March. Okay. Bye-bye.